Myoho Renge Kyo Nam Myoho Renge Kyo Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. Hello everyone. I've got some strong sunlight coming in on my face. I hope that doesn't make this video too difficult to watch. I'm going to start this particular Go show a little differently. It's the IZU exile, and I think it might be helpful to have a little bit of background on that. It's a short Go show, so I'm going to take the time to explain what it is. It's a response from Nichiren to one of his followers. In the 8th month of 1260, infuriated by Nichiren Shonen's refutation of the Pure Land School, so we just heard a tremendous discourse, a tirade, if you will, on the Nembutsu, on establishing the teaching for peace in the land, a group of Nembutsu followers attacked his dwelling at Matsubayatsu in Kamakura. Nichiren Shonen narrowly escaped and went to the home of his loyal disciple Toki Jonin in Shimosa province. In the spring of 1221, however, he returned to Kamakura and resumed his propagation efforts. On the 12th day of the 5th month, 1261, without any official investigation, the government sentenced Nichiren Shonen to exile in the IZU Peninsula, which was a stronghold of the Pure Land School. Nichiren Shonen was taken to Kawana, a small fishing village on the northeastern coast of Izu Peninsula. There he was given shelter and food by Funamori Yasaburo, a fisherman, and his wife, and the couple became his steadfast followers. The steward of Ito district in Izu, Ito Sekemitsu, learning of Nichiren Shonen's presence a month after his arrival, had Nichiren Shonen summoned in order that he might offer prayers for Sukemitsu's recovery from a serious illness. Sukemitsu regained his health, and it is said that he too became one of Nichiren Shonen's followers. Both Yasaburo and his wife were concerned about Nichiren Shonen's safety when he went to Ito to pray for the steward's health. Yasaburo sent a message to Nichiren Shonen at Ito with various offerings. The Izu exile, this Gosho, is Nichiren Shonen's reply. Nichiren Shonen's exile ended on the 22nd day of the 2nd month of 1263, and he returned to Kamakura. So he was exiled for some 2 years. All right, so here we go. I have received the rice dumplings wrapped in bamboo leaves, sake, dried rice, peppers, paper, and other items from the messenger whom you took the trouble to send. He also conveyed your message that these offerings should be kept secret. I understand. There might be repercussions to them for sending him support. Follow? So, when on the 12th day of the 5th month, having been exiled, I arrived at that harbor I had never even heard of before, and when I was still suffering after leaving the boat, you kindly took me into your care. What karma has brought us together? Can it be that because in the past you were a votary of the Lotus Sutra, now, in the latter day of the law, you have been reborn as Funamori no Yasaburo, and have taken pity on me? Though a man may do this, for your wife, as a married woman, to have given me food, brought me water to wash my hands and feet with, and treated me with great concern, I can only call wondrous. What caused you to inwardly believe in the Lotus Sutra and make offerings to me during my more than 30-day stay here? I was hated and resented by the steward, and the people of the district even more than I was in Kamakura, it's a bastion of the Pure Land sect. Those who saw me scowled, while those who merely heard my name were filled with spite. And yet, though I was there in the 5th month when rice was scarce, you secretly fed me. Have my parents been reborn in a place called Kawana in Ito of Izu province? So he's being very honorific to them and in his appreciation. The 4th volume of the Lotus Sutra states, I will send men and women of pure resolute mind and determination to offer alms to the teachers of the law. The meaning of this sutra passage is that the heavenly gods and benevolent deities will assume various forms, such as those of men and women, and present offerings to help the persons who practice the Lotus Sutra. There can be no doubt that this refers to you and your wife being born as a man and a woman and making offerings to Nichiren, the teacher of the law. Since I wrote to you in detail earlier, I will make this letter brief, but I would like to mention one thing in particular. When the steward of this district sent me a request to pray for his recovery from illness, I wondered if I should accept it. Remember, the steward is a Pure Land Nembutsu Buddhist. So he might have been trying to trick Nichiren into coming over so that he could do all sorts of nasty things to him, right? Maybe even just take his life. But since he showed me some degree of resolute mind and conviction in me, I decided I would appeal to the Lotus Sutra. This time I saw no reason why the 10 demon daughters should not join forces to aid me. I therefore addressed the Lotus Sutra, Shakyamuni, many treasures, and the Buddhas of the 10 directions, and also the sun goddess, Hachiman, and other deities, both major and minor. I was sure that they would consider my request and show me some sign. Certainly, they would never forsake me, but would respond as attentively as a person rubs a sore or scratches an itch. And as it turned out, the steward recovered. In gratitude, he presented me with a statue of the Buddha that had appeared from the sea along with a catch of fish. He did so because his illness had finally ended, an illness that I am certain was inflicted by the 10 demon daughters. This benefit, too, will surely become a benefit for you and your wife. See, this is a dialogue circling around the concept of Buddhist cause and effect, is that if your mental attitude of conviction is in positive, life-affirming behavior, then because our environment is, in fact, of our own making, that attitude will modify or mollify the environment to respond accordingly. So that's what that story is about. Living beings like ourselves have dwelt in the sea of the sufferings of birth and death since time without beginning. But they become votaries of the Lotus Sutra and realize that their bodies and minds, which have existed since the beginningless past, are inherently endowed with the eternally unchanging nature. Awaken to the mystic reality and their mystic wisdom, and attain the Buddha's body, which is as indestructible as a diamond. How then could they be different from that Buddha? Shakyamuni Buddha, the Lord of Teachings, who said numberless major world systems dust particles kalpas ago, I am the only person who can rescue and protect others, refers to living beings like ourselves. This is the Lotus Sutra's teachings of the 3,000 realms in a single moment of life, and the action of I am always here preaching the law. Even though such an admirable Lotus Sutra and Shakyamuni Buddha exist, ordinary people are unaware of it. The passage in the Lifespan chapter that reads, I make it so that living beings in their befuddlement do not see me even when when close by, refers to this. The disparity between delusion and enlightenment is like that between the four views in the grove of sal trees. What is called the Buddha of 3,000 realms in a single moment of life means that the entire realm of phenomena attains Buddhahood. So this is something I'm constantly talking about, is that even though this is wonderful storytelling, and you understand in Buddhism, this is what they call skillful means or skillful devices. These are stories and words to bring about deeper understanding in the mechanisms of life, of the universe. The forces are not, I know the translation is here mystic, and I think I'm going to endeavor to change that. What that's always corrected to be, even by Asian scholars, is that they were looking for a word in the English language or Western languages that could conceptually capture the Sanskrit terms and the later translations into Chinese and other Asian languages. That these were concepts, and you hear this statement all the time throughout, difficult to comprehend, difficult to understand, and thereby difficult to practice. So this is what they're trying to capture in the word mystic, but unfortunately in the West that word has a whole other charisma to it, so I'd really like to replace it, and I think I'll endeavor to do that. But basically the concept he's elucidating here is that this energy, this common thread, today you might call it the quantum fields, the source of manifestation of energies, that through an unfathomable a lot of amalgamations and develops tendencies in this condition we call humanity, has a momentum to it, okay? And that momentum, however we choose to respond to that momentum, can be either life-affirming or not life-affirming. And commensurately, there's a deep connection at those deep quantum levels, if you will, or you could use the word again spiritual, but it doesn't really capture the whole thing, that is connected, not disconnected, that the consequences of our actions are actually very much tied to the intent of our actions. This is why you can see 10 different people seemingly, from the outside as humans, seem to take the same actions, and yet all of them have varied responses, some of them even negative, because what we don't know and what they may not fully understand themselves is the energy, the intent, the attitude that they put into those actions. That makes all the difference. So this is what he's touching on here in this short letter. He's saying, because you've done such wonderful things, not only that you've done wonderful things, but that I, Nichiren, am so grateful, so profoundly grateful. See, this is changing the energy of the situation. And so the landowner, the lord of that region that he was exiled to, as a punishment, actually his sickness, and this happens a lot, I've talked about this before, as humans, oftentimes it takes some sort of trauma for us to suddenly simplify and let go of a lot of our mythologies and a lot of our predilections, and really simplify what we need in order to feel alive and feel good about being alive. And so sickness in the 13th century could easily mean death. So this landowner was scared. And he thought, well, I may be a Pure Land Buddhist and chant the Nembutsu all the time, but this is an eminent priest. Whether I agree with him or not, he's powerful. So let me invite him over and see if he can help me. And gosh, if he can help me, I might have to rethink my thoughts because I'm worried about dying right now. Okay? And so Nichiren tells this story, and it's not only proof of what he's been saying all along, but he shares it with his students so that they can see, wow, attitude, the way we think, the way we honor what we're learning, these teachings, has great merit. So let me go on. The demon who appears before the boy Snow Mountains was Chakra in disguise. The dove that sought the protection of King Shibiwas, the god Vishwakarman, King Universal Brightness, who returned to the palace of King Spotted Feet to be executed, was Shakyamuni Buddha, the Lord of Teachings. So he's drawing these corollaries all the time so that he can make the stories, the devices themselves, more relatable and more easily understood. While the eyes of ordinary people are blind to this, the eyes of the Buddha see it. A sutra passage states that there are paths by which birds and fish come and go in both the sky and the sea. A wooden statue of the Buddha is itself a golden Buddha, and a golden Buddha is a wooden statue. Aniruddha's gold turned into a hare and then a corpse. In the palm of Mahanama's hand, even sand turned into gold. These things are beyond ordinary understanding. And an ordinary person is a Buddha. Nichiren's own words. And a Buddha, an ordinary person. This is what is meant by 3,000 realms in a single moment of life, and by the phrase, I, in fact, attained Buddhahood, so on and so forth, long before immeasurable time, not just now in this life. In other words, Buddhahood is always extant. Buddhahood is this formative energy. It's no different from karma. Our karma is Buddhahood. Buddhahood is our karma. The difference is understanding. The difference is our intent. Right? The amount of energy we can scientifically produce to move vehicles and fly planes is still just energy. It's energy put to good use. That same energy, as we've learned so many times in the modern era and throughout our history as humans, can be put to war, violence, evil. The same energy is just directed differently. Ordinary people, Buddhahood. Buddhahood, ordinary people. In that case, perhaps the world-honored one of great enlightenment, the Lord of Teachings, has been reborn and has helped me as you and your wife. Though the distant... Now, do you understand? The reborn there isn't a person, Buddha, who metamorphosed into two people who he's now saying are acting as his parents. It's this energy. And it's manifested itself in these good people. Not because it fell from the sky or infected them in the water they drink. Their attitude has changed. Their intent then with that attitude is very life-affirming and supportive of Nichiren, who is doing nothing but trying to do that every second of his day. So he attracted it out of them as much as they manifested it for him. Does that make sense? Though the distance between Ito and Kawana is short, our hearts are kept far apart. I write this letter for the sake of the future. Do not discuss it with others, but ponder it yourself. If people should learn anything at all of it, it will go hard with you. Keep it deep in your heart and never speak of it. With respect and regards, Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. So, as much as he's wanting to report this wondrous proof of the teachings of Buddha, He's also concerned that by sending him thanks for his gifts and what he took the trouble to send, could get him in trouble. Because after all, the authorities, they don't like Nichiren at this point, and they put him in exile simply for the reason that he couldn't continue to connect with his students and talk about this terrible Nimbutsu, and get him out of here. He's a troublemaker. And if you're supporting the troublemaker, they're probably soon to send you out there after him, right? So he's saying, man, I honor and so appreciate your gift, but don't make it great knowledge. This may inspire you. He realizes the power of his own words, and he says, I know this may be very inspiring to you, but keep it to yourself. Until a later time when I can be less of a thorn in the government's side or whatever. There's greater support for the Buddha's teachings. And then you'll be safe to talk about it. But I wanted you to know because I'm so grateful, right? So that's IZU to Exile. It's an interesting gosho. There's a lot in it. And I want to remind you that this is how you kind of need to disassemble these writings. You can't just take them at face value and go, all these deities and all that. See underneath the words. Don't follow the words. Don't follow the finger. Follow what the finger is pointing to. Then you'll see the glorious moon. Right? So Nichiren is doing exactly as the Buddha taught. Here's a bunch of words that can help you with familiar stories that you know culturally growing up. Hachiman and all of these deities are common knowledge to these people in Japan at the time, not so much in the West. And so I think it's easier for us in the West, in a way, to get hooked up into all of these different kind of things. They're fascinating, right? But don't let that drag you into the mythology. Understand that the mythology, the fables, the stories are being used to illustrate a deeper point. So he's following in the footsteps of all scholarship in Buddhism, as I myself am struggling to do right now. So I hope it's reaching you, and I appreciate your time. Okay? Have a terrific day. Take care. Namo Myoho Renge Kyo.